Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Guy Bass. I'm with Palo Alto Networks. We're going to give people a few more minutes to sign in before we get started. So if you need to grab a coffee or something, um, you can do that real quickly. Maybe we should have tested some background music while we were waiting for people to sign in there.
Can sing the Jeopardy theme song, but I won't promise no one will go deaf.
Yeah. Do you want to do an introduction for Lockstep or
Yeah, Kurt actually,
okay? Okay.
So let me apologize first for the sound of my voice. I have whatever's been going around right now. So I'm Kurt Godwin. I'm with Lockstep Technology Group. I am a former K-12 technology person, spent 31 years in the business. So I'm here as part of the panelist group. Looking forward to Guy's presentation.
Thank you. No pressure there. And you know what? We can, is this an hour or 45 minutes? Um,
I think we've got an hour on the calendar.
okay, cool. So no rush. We'll give them just another minute to sign in, and then we will get started.
Sounds great.
All right, let's go ahead and get started. So, like I said, my name is Guy Bass. I am with Palo Alto Networks. I've been here for 11 and a half years. I started out as a trainer, training customers like yourselves and our partners globally. And then they found out that I actually was a college professor teaching cybersecurity, network security for 12 years before I came to Palo Alto Networks. And when they found out that I could, as they put it, speak professor, they asked me to build their cybersecurity academy program where colleges and universities could use our technologies um, in their classrooms. So grew that from 10 schools when they came to me and a team of me to a team of 10. And last count, I heard that the academy program, when I left, we were in 1,400 schools in 125 countries. I managed to go to 47 of those. So I was pretty excited with that. But as I got older, it got harder to do that. Traveling to APAC and stuff on it was almost on a weekly basis in 2018. I was traveling to somewhere in Asia every week. Um, so I had an opportunity to move over to our channel where I could do the same thing, but for partners in the Southeast. And the Southeast, instead of covering, North Carolina over to Nevada, skip California, and then cover Singapore, Australia, Thailand, all those places. I was able to stop at Alabama and Mississippi. So I was quite happy with that. And when I was doing training, I actually trained, I think it was the Forsyth school system down there in Georgia. It was either Decatur or Forsyth. Um, so I have done K through 12 training, and I'm pretty sure it was Forsyth because I actually live right next door to Forsyth County in North Carolina. And when I got down there, I was kind of surprised there was a Forsyth in Georgia. But I've also trained other K through 12s like Aurora School System and so forth. And URL filtering is one of the hot topics in every school that I've ever trained, whether it's college, university, business even, or K through 12, because, there's so many malicious websites and everything out there these days. I also found it funny that at several of the school systems that I talked to or did training with, when we got to this subject, the most common comment was, if you want to know how to get around URL filtering, talk to a middle school or high school male or female student, and they can tell you how to get around the URL filtering. But we've done quite a bit to make sure that it's not that easy for them to do it anymore, especially with our advanced URL filtering. URLs have always been a problem for, school systems, in the fact that, they could access adult materials or go to sites to do, download papers, stuff like that. But for, businesses and for even organizations like yourselves, educational institutions, phishing attacks and other types of URL misconfigurations are causing problems everywhere. 84%, or 84% of the organizations that were successfully phished in 2022. 91% of those security incidents were caused by phishing attacks. And they're harder to detect because of AI. I mean, you used to could detect a phishing attack quite easily because, there would be misspellings, the grammar was off, stuff like that, because, usually it's a foreign national. I look at my firewalls in the evenings and I average 5 to 6,000 attacks because I have public IP addresses. 5 to 6,000 attacks from Russia, China, North Korea, Iran, and Connecticut, places like that on a regular basis. Seems like on a nightly basis, they're trying some type of attack on me. And, we get a lot of phishing emails and so forth, even to our private email and stuff. So we have and like I said, they're getting much better because they're using AI now to go through and craft those emails. And the AIs, can read and write English better than they can. So they can come up and create these more sophisticated attacks. And everybody's getting hit out there. Traditionally, when you're using like a WebSense or something like that, they're using their URL categories to determine whether it's a legitimate or an illegitimate site, or whether it's a malware site or an adult site, so forth. What they've done is they have a spider that goes out that tries to find the site. And we do this as well. We have spiders that go out, they find the site, and they do an initial classification on them from what they see in the content. But where most organizations stop after they've read the site and they've gone to the other links and so forth, we continue on. We have our own AIs that will go in and try to do things like enter credentials. If it hits a website, they'll try a login. If it lets them log in, they'll record that because more than likely that's a phishing site. They're just trying to capture credentials. It can also go through and do some stuff like going in and actually completing the CAPTCHA if it has a CAPTCHA on there, and so forth. We built a really robust AI agent in the background in our wildfire, we call it. And so it's updating that information and everything so that, it makes it more than just a URL listed and what we think the category is. And, I know it's talking a lot about phishing attacks and so forth in this presentation, but it is also analyzing what the user's doing in real time. Okay. With our URL filtering, we can block them from entering a credential in their work credentials into a website, so that they can't use their username and password or accidentally. I mean, how many times have you thought you were entering your information into something and realized, oh dang, I just sent that in Slack and or something because you didn't realize the focus had switched on your window. So we can do credential blocking, stuff like that, and we're constantly analyzing the traffic as it's going through. Okay, so when we say analyze, we're looking at the URL, we're looking at the content, but we're also looking at other things like how long ago was this website registered? Okay, is this a brand new website that's only been around for like 10 days? Because that's how a lot of these malicious actors will do their phishing sites. They will spin up a new site like ups.net or something like that to mimic a UPS site. So we're checking when the website was registered. How long has it been up? Who's it registered to? Because we've built over the years through analysis and so forth, where the bad actors are, who they're using to register websites and so forth. Um, we're also going and pulling from other open source things like sites that are some that we have founded in the past, other open source EDL lists, so forth. AI is continuously going through and, it's ahead of you, checking links and so forth in some instances. Um, and because of that, we have a higher rate of blocking malicious websites. As you can see here, we look and analyze 317 million new and unique URLs daily. Okay, that's using our 70,000 plus customers, um, information and so forth. It's all crowdsourced threat intelligence out there. Our precision AI is, we've been developing this for a long time. We introduced machine learning into our systems, our firewalls, and so forth, all the way back in 2014 when we bought a company called Light Cyber. Um, so we've been integrating it, expanding it uh, on a regular basis. We introduced machine learning at the firewall level. So your firewall can do machine learning if it's a third gen or higher, or can run PAN-OS 10 dot, whatever, 10.1 or 2, um, a 10 series firewall. Um, it's got limited capabilities and so forth as to what it can do because of the hardware, but when we introduced advanced URL filtering, we extended that machine learning into the cloud. So starting with PAN-OS 10.2, you could now, it not only analyzes the URL in the firewall, but it also sends it up to the cloud for analysis. If you turn on real-time detection, inline real-time detection. And it will protect against phishing, malware, grayware, which grayware. The easiest way to explain that is it's a site that, isn't malicious, but it could cause problems on your network. My favorite example is WeatherBug. WeatherBug was one of those programs that it didn't do anything. You click on it and it sat down in your icon and it would tell you what the weather was. But what people didn't realize is the default setting for WeatherBug was to go and check and see what the weather was every 2 seconds. So every 2 seconds, it was sending a URL request out to a weather site to pull down the current weather. So every 2 seconds. So it created a tremendous amount of network traffic, so much that we ended up back when I was working for a company banning WeatherBug. Because of the slowdowns it was causing on our network, back when we only had T1 lines and stuff. You've got 400 employees with WeatherBug who are doing URL requests every 2 seconds. It does put a drain on the resources that were out there. And with the AI learning, we've gone beyond just machine learning. We've gone to deep learning and to generative AI. So if you're using like our Strata Cloud Manager and so forth, you can ask the Copilot to identify the top URLs that your students are going to, and it can compile that information for you, doing that. So, by doing everything in the cloud as well, we have consistency across the platform, um, for for all your firewalls. You don't have to worry about so much, did I get last night's update uh, to my URL database and so forth. So that's helped a lot going forward. Um, besides um, phishing, and the reason we talk about phishing so much is because it's so prevalent in today's society. Not only in web browsing and so forth, but think about how many spam messages do you get on your cell phone every day, or phishing messages do you get on your cell phone every day as well. So having a consistent way to block that information is very important. Um, some of the things that we've done is, we have the SAS phishing detection model, like it says here. So we not only analyze, the code from the page, we're also analyzing the images, and we're looking at the tokens that they're creating and so forth. We also introduced inline detection models in the firewalls. So, they have models that they can compare against and so forth. And then we have, our phishing kit, we call it, where, it actually uses additional features like DNS and so forth to analyze, like I was saying, how long's the website been there, who is it registered by, that kind of information. Um, Now, all of our services work together to deliver real-time prevention. So advanced URL would be, the first thing. So it's going to check to see, if the site is legitimate, so forth, if it's allowed to go there, if it's one that hasn't been categorized yet and so forth, we can check and make sure that you know, we can check their emails and see if that link that they received in the email would take them to a phishing site. Wildfire will analyze any kind of files that, might be sent or tried to send down to that client, see if they're malicious. And Wildfire is has always been phenomenal in the 11 years that I've been here, and has only gotten more and more powerful. It's not built off of VMware or any other kind of hypervisor, so it's a custom built. So a lot of your malware can't detect that Wildfire is actually a VM. If it does, we do have hardware that we can run it on to do the analysis. We notice that the program shuts down because it detected it was on a VM. We'll move it over to hardware appliance and run it there. We also have prevention that is constantly monitoring for command and control procedures and so forth. It can set it up. Um, it reports back to your advanced URL filtering, so we can move. If it gets to stage 3 and we detect a new command and control 8, a URL is updated so that we know where that new site is going forward to stop any future attacks. IoT can stop lateral movements. But the point of this slide is everything works together in our environment to stop the attack at some point throughout its attack. And with our new Strata Cloud Manager, you have the ability now to get a good graphical representation and control all of these appliances from one location. As you can see from this graphic, we can see how many IoT devices we have out there. We were to click on that, and we're going to do a demo here in a few minutes with my coworker Brad is going to do a demo and show you URL filtering in action. But you can see, it shows URL filtering, shows how many have been blocked, so forth, how many users are out there. And we can get this, and it'll break it down to us too for us by categories, showing us the highest ones, command and controls, how many times that was hit, vulnerabilities, phishing, malware, grayware. We can see what kind of, URLs and threats were broken or were blocked. So advanced URL filtering, this deck doesn't talk about the way that we do prevention. So we have real-time prevention where you get real-time verdicts on sites that you go to. That was added in, with our machine learning and 11. But we have 5 basic ways of blocking URLs. We have the allow, we have the block, we have the continue, we have the administrative override, and then we have, I always forget the last one. We have the allow, alert. Okay, alert. So if you want to see where your users are going, so if you decide to implement URL filtering, if you're not using it already in your environment, if you want to see where your users are going, then set every category to alert. Alert will make a log entry and allow the traffic through. Block will make a log entry and block the traffic. And as you'll see in the demo, we'll throw up a web page that says this has been blocked for such and such, and this is the URL category. Allow doesn't make a log entry, just lets the traffic through. The override, you have a password that you have to enter. There's one password for the firewall. So if password gets out, then anybody can do that override if you've got an override. But it will still make a log entry of who went there and so forth. And allow, block, alert, override, and the continue option is an interesting option in that what will happen is it will pop up a web page that says this site's been blocked by company policy. However, if you feel you need to get to it, you can click the continue, but this information will be logged. I was working with a company that and training them, and they were talking about they had 400 employees, and I was like, you block adult sites, and they were like, no, we They say they need it for research. It was a clinical research company. And I said, is it a problem? They're like, we have 18,000 hits a day to adult sites. It's like 18,000 and you have 400 employees? Why don't you use the continue option? And they were like, what's that? And I told them. So and I showed them, they asked me if they could modify the page. I showed them how to modify it because you can modify the pages. And they changed the page to say, this will be logged and reported to your manager. They went from 18,000 hits a day to they implemented this on Wednesday night. They stayed late after class after I showed them how to do it, implemented it to less than 200 hits per day after they implemented the continue option. So that's something you can consider when you're looking at research sites for your students and stuff. And certain types of sites they may need to get to for papers they may be working on. And we have a lot of sites and threats and stuff that we protect against because, we, as you can see from these numbers, each day we block 11.3 billion attacks per day around the world. We analyze 2.3 million events. So that means websites visited, files downloaded, stuff like that. Unique events per day. And we share to those places like the cybersecurity consortium that we founded, and we belong to, 65,000 plus threats. Now, we also, share with our customers those machine learning models and so forth that we've refined to catch those threats. By the way, when we founded the Cybersecurity Foundation in 2014, it was made up of Palo Alto Networks, Trend Micro, and two other companies. Cisco was not part of it. Checkpoint was not part of it. I don't know that Juniper was. And to be a member, you had to contribute 1,000 zero-day signatures to the consortium per day. Within a year, it was up to be a member, you had to contribute 10,000 per day. And I believe now it's up to close to 40, 50,000 new unseen zero-day attacks to be a member of the cybersecurity consortium. It's crazy how much that has grown over the past few years. So again, our platform is designed so that everything works together to help minimize those zero-day attacks. We, have a very high rate of return when you look at what we can deliver as far as cost and so forth from our cloud delivered security services. And the advanced URL filtering, even here at the house and stuff, it's, blocked quite a few websites that looked legitimate, but in the end, actually weren't. So, Brad, do we have any questions before we jump over to the demo? Has anybody entered any questions in or anything?
So far, yeah, no, appreciate it. So far, the only question I've got is, are we recording this session? And we are,
Okay.
and you'll get a link as well. So, if at the end of this, if somebody wasn't able to join, we'll make sure that your team is able to view. So that was it.
And like I said, I've trained many, colleges, universities, businesses, and K through 12 organizations. And advanced URL filtering is probably the most important of the CDSSs to implement, because, not only adults are phishing attacked, it's kids nowadays as well. And it's not just phishing attacks. Malware is distributed through videos now, and there's just all kinds of sources that they could accidentally access during the day that could all of a sudden deliver malware to your site. So, Brad, you want to take over and do the demo now?
Sure thing. If you want to stop sharing, I will grab
Okay,
it.
sure.
We'll go from there.
Thank you.
All right, perfect. So I've got just kind of a little demo environment here, and we will walk through a couple of the areas for URL filtering. I do have a lot of configuration kind of pre-done in this environment, so it's be kind of a short demo, but we wanted you to be able to see a lot of the capabilities that the firewall has around URL filtering. So first thing I'm going to do is pop into my objects area, come down to URL filtering. If you are using URL filtering today in the firewall, you probably already have a couple of profiles here. If not, it's very easy. You can add one or even clone the original default policies and kind of adjust your categories however you see fit. Um, there are a bunch of, as you can see, categories in here, right? So we can set access either to kind of, as Guy had mentioned, allow, which lets everything through, alert, which triggers a log message, block, do the block page, continue. Just like I mentioned, that's kind of like the hey, big brother is watching option, but you can still get there. And I'll show you what that looks like here in a second. And then the override. One other thing that we have here that I'll kind of mention this because this is something that's actually really interesting. Based on users that are authenticating into the firewall, so if you're using user ID in your firewall and doing policies based on user group or username and things of that nature, we also have an option here for user credential submission. Basically, what this means is if I'm logged into the user or to the firewall as, or the domain as B Tom Brad, whatever, I'll just say Brad. Then if I go to a website and try to log in with my corporate credentials, Brad and whatever my password is, the firewall can actually block that submission. So the idea there is, if I'm a user and I'm logging into some random web service and I'm trying to use my corporate credentials or my internal credentials, then the firewall can actually block you from submitting those, since really they shouldn't be reused. Secondarily, if I do somehow land on a phishing page and I try to type in my corporate credentials, it'll block me from submitting my corporate credentials. So those are some of the kind of interesting things you can do with this. All right. So I'm gonna hit cancel and I'll show you real quick, just kind of what some of those look like. So just got some example links here. If I come to something like the Pirate Bay, you can see this is just blocked. And again, these pages are fully customizable. You can basically export the original page here, modify it, write your own whatever, and push it back up. Um, and I can also do, you can see here, I've got IGN, which is being blocked because it's the category of games. But you can see this is what the continue option looks like. So again, maybe you don't want to fully block a category, but want the user to think, hey, this might be outside of your standard policy. Do I want to get to that or not? And you can have that option there. Um,
And Brad, as I mentioned, can you go back to the blog page?
yeah, absolutely. I'll hit this one.
All of these blog pages can be customized. So you could put your school system's logo on it. You can change the wording on it. Um, you can customize this page quite a bit to what you want. Because like I said, you know, whereas like it says, please contact your system administrator on that continue page um, that he had brought up. Um, you notice,
Oh,
oops,
I've
you
already
hit
hit
the continue.
continue, so
Yeah,
yeah.
probably Bud's gun shop is like, but and if you had noticed on that continue page, it said if you feel like this was a mistake and you wanted to continue to the page, you can click the continue button, but it will be
Well,
um, logged. Like I said, that one
yeah.
company changed it to logged and reported to your manager, and that stopped them. So you could change it to and will be reported to your principal, parents, or something,
Hmm.
and maybe stop them from going to certain sites.
All right. Awesome. So I also wanted to show real quick what the advanced functionality does. So what I've got here is a little web server that I'm running that is going to basically give me a phishing site. So one of the things that you think about with URL filtering is everything is just categorized based on some crawler going out around the internet, trying to find things, and categorizing that page, right? So when the user goes to hit that page, the firewall is able to say, oh, we've seen that before and it is this category. Well, if I have something that's brand new or has never been seen before, or maybe the crawler doesn't have access to it, right? So you could think about maybe I go to a web page or I get a phishing link in my email that is it looks just like Office 365, for example, but I have to solve a CAPTCHA to see it. So like slide a little puzzle piece over or whatever the case may be. Those things beyond that is what the crawler will never see. So once the user solves that CAPTCHA, then that page is just uncategorized at that point. So what the advanced functionality will allow us to do is once we can see what that page is, we can uh, categorize it on the fly as it's being delivered to the user. So if it is a phishing page, we can block it right there, right away. So this is another quick example. So, a lot of the phishing, or we'll say malicious people out there creating phishing sites and stuff like that, uh, can actually look for where do I see crawlers come from? And any IP address or range or subnet or whatever that I ever get crawled on, I'm going to deny that traffic. So a web crawler may not even be able to access a page just like this. So you can see I've gone to uh, fbook.com, whatever, Herald's World, what, blah, 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 whatever. So this page, and you saw when I requested it, possibly, it popped up here so we can see, I have my Git, but I got no real response from the web server. So in this case, it says, hey, you're not what I'm expecting, so you don't get the page. This page is actually being served up only to people who log in with their phones. So I'm going to flip over and we're going to emulate Android KitKat browser here in Chrome. And you can see when I do that, it changes the page. So the idea here is that if a crawler hits a page, sees no content. But if the user hits the page, then it does get the content. So a real simple example of what it's like to hide a page from a web crawler that's doing all of this indexing and categorization for us. So in this case, you can see it's a Facebook page. It'll let me type in my username and password. I can hit login and go about my business here. Um, Instead, what I'm going to do at this point is flip back over to my firewall. I'm going to open up my URL filtering profile and pop over to this inline categorization page. And this is basically that new advanced functionality that Guy was talking about. So we'll enable inline cloud. And I'm going to go ahead and commit this change. So it will take a minute. So we'll give this a minute to push the configuration over. But at this point, what will happen is now as the firewall sees a page come through that it has not seen before, it's able to then take a look at some, metadata of that page. Is this something that could be sketchy? Is this something that could be unusual? If so, it will then take that and basically start passing it through the cloud service as it's being routed through the firewall. The delay the user sees is absolutely minimal. So the connection to the cloud service is stood up all the time. So we don't have to wait for a connection to establish or anything like that. So anything that ever gets filtered through the cloud categorization is very quick. And again, it's only in certain scenarios. So it doesn't match a previous page. We haven't categorized this page before. It's new, or the firewall says, hey, there's some weird things here. We want to, have an extra set of eyes on this, basically. So once that's done, as the page is delivered to the user, we are able to take a look and see things like what are the headers, right? What images are on this page? What's the domain? What's the actual URL? Things of that nature. And we can compare that to what a real page may be in the case of phishing attempt, right? So in this case, if we are looking at our Facebook phishing page, we can take this and say, hey, we see Facebook shown up here. We see a login button. Uh, does this information match what we typically see when somebody logs into Facebook? So we can actually look kind of behind the scenes. What are the headers here in the HTML and all of that type of information? Okay, so we're completed. And then make a determination on what to do with this page at that point. So now I'm going to go ahead and pop that page back open. We'll hit Facebook, and you can see it's blocked. So here, and we can see the category that it's applied. So before I turned on inline categorization, I was able to absolutely get to that page, even though it was hidden from a crawler. Flip over to Android, get the content, type in my username and password, and have my credentials stolen. Now with inline filtering, it blocks the page immediately and I don't even get to the point where I would flip this over and see the page. If we flip over into our monitor tab, pop open URL filtering, you can see here that the last hit for my URL categories includes real-time detection. And that's the page that we just tried to browse to. You can see Harold's World, whatever, on port 8000. So URL filtering is not just the standard, hey, we want to block, certain content, but is also extremely capable in terms of security as a whole, phishing detection, and things of that nature. So even if you have something else in line, really designed to protect students on the internet, we still, can leverage URL filtering at the firewall to do other things like this, focus on the security side of things, and of course, build out reports and visibility into all of that content as well. And again, tied into things like user ID. If we were leveraging user ID in this environment, we'd have all of the source user information as well, and we'd be able to tie all of this back to individual users if needed. So I know it was a super quick little demo, but wanted to give you kind of a high level view of what some of the advanced functionality is available to you now with the licensing. So yeah, there we go. We're going to leave it open for a little bit of Q&A as well. So if you have any questions, feel free to toss those in the chat, and we can make it go. I do see a question here about the override working with HTTPS. Um, I, I have not heard that's a problem. I have no idea, to be honest with you. Um, I will have to give that a shot and give it a try. One thing we can always do, though, of course, is override, or even the ability to Um, you can also redirect users. So if I am not using user ID, for example, let's say I'm on a guest network or an open student network where we're not doing user-based authentication, one thing I can do is get to this block page and then either have this automatically or put a link here to redirect me to the authentication page hosted on the firewall. So instead of just typing in a password that is, firewall wide that, if one user shares it, then anybody has it. But I can redirect this basically to require a username and password as well, which may be another option. But hopefully that answered your question, Tim. Sorry, I have no real idea specifically if we can do that on the
Hey, Brad, can
yep,
you
yep.
actually let me share?
Yeah, absolutely. Flip that over for you. There you go.
Um, so we absolutely can block even if they're going to an HTTPS site. Um, but if they're going to an HTTPS site and we're not doing URL, I mean, we're not doing decryption, we're not going to be able to block it based off of we've detected malware or something inside of it. But anytime you make a URL request, even if it's to an HTTPS site, you still have to supply the URL name, and that's not encrypted. Um, so as you can see here, this I went to HTTPS Bud's Gun Shop, um, and our company policy is to block weapons categories. So I might get something from them. I was demoing this. But even though it's an HTTPS site, because the URL is not in there, or because URL is not encrypted, we're able to block on that. Um, so yes, the continue option would do the same thing. It would pop up and ask for the password to move forward. One of the things I was going to show too is URL categories. So you can create custom URL categories. We used to have an allow list, a block list, okay, and it would check allow list, then block list, then custom URL categories, and then categories in the order that it would check. And you could only get the category check if you had URL filtering. It kind of did away with the allow list and the block list, in that, you basically, instead of creating an allow list where you would enter in URLs, you just create a URL category now that says allow. Also, when we categorize a website, and let me see if I can remember what that website's um, uh, it's URL. Um, I think that's it. Let me switch back over to my other. So if you wanted to see how a website was categorized, you could go out to our URL filtering Palo Alto Networks, test a site here, and you could put in like buds. Let's just put in budsgunshop.com. Do the captcha. Oh, I hate when they do these with the motorcycles and stuff. You never know. Are they counting the handlebars or not counting the handlebars? But you can see it's categorized as weapons, risk as low level. Um, we can assign up to 4 categories to a website on there. So what that means is we added a functionality so that I could add in, different categories for high risk, low risk, so forth, for demos and other stuff like that. URL filtering, the categories with the advanced URL filtering. We also have categories. If you have AI access as well, you can see AI code assistant here with alert, allow, for the URL stuff. So you could block writing assistants out there, so stop them from writing web pages or research papers and stuff. We have certain categories that should be blocked, high risk. Sometimes I have that set to alert in
Hey,
this
Guy,
demo portal.
we only got a couple minutes, so I want to interrupt real quick.
Okay.
Can I reshare my screen again?
Yes,
All
sure.
right.
Um,
Come back to this one here. All right. So, let me share this. Okay. So, I just clicked override. Dadgummit. Okay. So I did just, you'll have to believe me now, but, I did just turn on override for gambling. And, now, of course, I don't know what the how the timing works, but it did provide me the block or the override page. I had to type in the password, and it let me right on to into that page. So, did not have any issue here in Chrome with that override page.
yeah. Um, yeah, so you can do, like I said, you can block categories based on multiple attributes, but mainly you're going to block usually by the type of category and the risk factor.
Yeah.
And our wildfire and other resources determine that kind of information. Mhm. Are there any other questions? Nope, that looks about it. Hopefully you found this useful today. And Brad or the Lockstep team or I are available if you have questions um, about implementing or using this in your technology. And if there are no other questions, I guess we'll turn it back over to the Lockstep team.